Hi there, greetings and salutations. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. And am I pointing the right way? I guess I am, right? No, that's Derek Schultz. Sorry.
You got it.
The new home studio, Derek, I'm still getting used to it, right? I enjoy it. Boo enjoys it. You're about to see a cameo, I have a feeling here. But Matthew has said more boo. So we'll see if that happens. But nonetheless, lot to get to, lot to unpack, lot to talk about on this one of 2 days in the sports calendar year where you do not have MLB, NHL, NFL, and what's the other one I meant? NBA. None of those four are playing. But we have plenty to get to: Summer League, WNBA, Home Run Derby, and the fact that Derek is fresh off of one of the great venues in all of America at Red Rocks. And bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, despite the fact that you're in a different part of the country.
I am in a different time zone, too, right? So it's...
Why are you whispering?
I'm not whispering.
It sounds like you're whispering.
I'm talking like I normally do.
Okay.
I'm just in more of a dedicated space. It's not my basement anymore, so I have to be, I guess, a little more. I'm taking it down like an octave. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, but why?
I don't want to disturb anybody, you know? I want to be a kind person in a public space. I'm at a work convention in Denver, so I'm not trying to, kind of scream, "Hey, welcome to Query Schultz" from the mountaintops.
What do you guys share rooms?
No, we don't share rooms or anything like that. No. And the walls are actually pretty thick. It's very quiet in here. It's a nice hotel.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Howard Johnson right there in Denver.
That's right. Yeah. Actually, we're in Aurora. We're outside of Denver. We couldn't afford Denver proper.
Right.
So we went over that way. Yes.
Have you been to Denver before?
No, I never have. And I always have wanted to. And it's a neat place. Red Rocks is just breathtaking. What an incredible. I can't imagine there are many places, forget America, in the world that are quite like that.
So what concert or what show did you see at Red Rocks?
So it wasn't really necessarily even a dedicated show. It was almost like one of these like family and friends nights, because it was a Monday night. And they're like, come out and watch. Do you remember the movie Little Miss Sunshine? Had like Greg Kinnear, Steve Carell.
Yep.
The band that did the entire soundtrack for that movie is from Denver. And they've been together for 30 years. And they're like a 5-piece ensemble. And they play violin and cello and guitar, guitar, drums, bass, all the regular stuff too. But all these other instruments, flute. And they played the entire soundtrack. And then they did an outdoor screening of Little Miss Sunshine, which was really neat.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, Red Rocks, for those that are unfamiliar, it is essentially if you're from the central Indiana area, it's the Deer Creek of Colorado, but not even comparable because of its setting, why it's named Red Rocks. But it also was part of the New Deal after, it was after the war, it was or after the Depression, actually, it was built as part of the New Deal to create jobs, especially with, the new, not new settlements, but newer areas out west. That was Denver's big project, and it's been there for almost 100 years now. And I've never seen a show there, Derek. I've been there because it is a tourist attraction, even when there's no show going on.
Yeah, they have hiking trails around it and all that stuff.
Amazing. Did you see did you happen to see the old dinosaur right outside of Red Rocks? There's the rock embedment with the dinosaur fossils in it.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And they also have a Hall of Fame that has a little placard for every single act they've ever had there.
Yes.
So really, really cool place. And also no humidity, which is nice coming from Indiana where it's 300% humidity when you come out here into the mountain air. Right? Yeah, it's incredible. It's breezy. We did Rocky Mountain National Park and Bear Lake, Emerald Lake, that whole deal. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Denver's very cool. No question about it. While you were doing that, the Home Run Derby was taking place. That's probably item number one on the national sports calendar. But then, of course, the Fever right in the midst of things. I thought they're coming off their best performance of the year, truthfully, in their last game. And then, Pacers Summer League as well. So, Derek, with all of that said, I will let you lead, by the way, on what you feel to be topic A in this, the kind of cornucopia of summer sports.
Yeah, kind of like my high school report card. I don't really think there are any A's. I think we can combine a couple of B's and low B's maybe as well. And what's interesting, Jake, is, these summer months, you talk about this being the deadest sports time of the year. the Fever have sort of dissolved a lot of that, haven't they? I mean, I'm assuming, I don't have the chance to listen as much as I would like because we're best friends and I want to support you and your show. But I would imagine that they're almost an everyday topic. And that obviously was never the case back in the days when I was on the radio. But just this trip that they just went on, 3-1, bookended by road wins against the defending champion Aces. I just think the Fever are starting to show you what they can do when they have their best stuff. If we're going to make a baseball analogy, right? What's interesting about their season is that when they've been bad, particularly defensively, they've been terrible.
Right.
But when they've been good, they've been the team that I think a lot of fans expected to see. That is every bit a title contender, right?
I think the thing about them that's intriguing, Derek, that I've been talking about is this, and that is their best player is Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Mitchell is maybe their most consistent offensive player, and she's a wonderful talent. And they have very good players. Aaliyah Boston is a fabulous player. Yeah. It's almost like a discredit to the others to say that Caitlin Clark is the best player. But you say that Caitlin Clark is the best player because, number one, she's the most transcendent star, unquestionably. Number two, she facilitates a lot. And number three, she has this fan base that if you say anything other than that, there becomes this huge backlash. And one of the things that I have figured out, and I find it fascinating, truthfully, there are a large percentage of fans of Caitlin Clark that aren't necessarily fans of the Indiana Fever. And they want Caitlin Clark to do well, and it doesn't really matter. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I get it. I mean, she's a transcendent star. But for that reason, there became all of this noise going on because if you said anything at all remotely critical of the team or Caitlin Clark, if it was about the team, it was like, okay, whatever. If it's about Caitlin Clark, oh my gosh, this avalanche would come of this fury, that this vitriol regarding anything having to do with negativity about her. But what I find to be intriguing, and it's something that I think the Fever are starting to kind of wade their way through. Caitlin Clark, Derek, if you said to Caitlin Clark, you are a point guard, you are going to be John Stockton, you are going to be, Jason Kidd, you are a point guard. She would be the best point guard in the WNBA. Her court vision, her passing, all of that is unprecedented within that league. If you said to Caitlin Clark, you're going to be a shooting guard, you're going to be Steph Curry, you're going to be Reggie Miller, she would be the best shooting guard in the WNBA. She would be the best at either position. She can do both. She's like this hybrid guard. But it seems to me that they are at their best when she is facilitating versus when she is the primary offensive scoring weapon. And when she is facilitating for Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston, that's when they're at their best. But then people get upset because she's not shooting logo threes and scoring 30, and therefore they feel she's being held back. I think what you see here, and in particular with back injuries are no joke. So when they have had to play it cautious with the back that has flared itself up, and when they're up 30, she doesn't need to be on the floor. But in those games that she has missed, it's not to say that they're better without her. That would be foolish to say. But it forces them to get themselves open by flowing constantly because she's not able by her passing ability to make people open when they're not even open. And so as a result of that, when she is put back out there, I think there's an adjustment there. But they are at their best, in my opinion, when she is facilitating versus when she is the immediate first shot priority. And that's not a knock on her at all. It makes her an elite level player that raises everybody. But they have a lot of talent across the board. And I think now that they've been forced to kind of play it in that movement kind of way, that's why you're starting to see it. And then defensively, yes, Derek, they have to be better and consistently better on defense.
Yeah, I mean, you have some elite offensive players, right? Kelsey Mitchell, an elite offensive player. Caitlin Clark, an elite offensive player. Aaliyah Boston can take over games, right, in the paint. On the interior, she could be unguardable at times. So as long as your defense is okay, as long as it's even mediocre, you're going to win most nights, it feels like, right?
Right.
It's just when it's bad or catastrophic, that's when the Fever sort of run into some trouble. So I agree with you. I think the best version of the Fever is when Caitlin Clark is more in a facilitator role. And I would hope, Jake, that at the end of the day, most sane people would be okay with, as long as the Fever win and Clark goes for 16-11. I'm good with that instead
Right.
of rooting for 26-6 and a loss. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I'm talking points and assists here. And you're always going to get that sort of elements of the bad actors on Twitter, really on both sides. I mean, we talked about it with the Alyssa Thomas incident a couple of weeks ago, and you have those people coming out and defending what she did, or well, the league's physical, whatever else to protect it. You know, you kind of have it. You're getting it from all sides when it comes to sort of the national attention that's on not only the WNBA, but especially on the Fever. But I do think that they are, it took them a while to get here, but they're starting to discover what the best version of themselves is. And I think you saw a little, 4 games is a very small sample size. We're talking about 1/10, not even 1/10 of the season, 1/11th of the season, right? Because they just hit the midpoint. But
right.
I do think that they're starting to sort of figure some things out, if you will.
And there are 15 teams in the league. They're currently 5th out of the 15, and they've had struggles within there. They've had slumps within there, and yet they're still in the top third of the league. So you would assume, and they just, to your point, Derek, they didn't just beat Las Vegas. I mean, they I'm not going to say they manhandled them, woman-handled them in this case, but they were very much in game 2, obviously very much in control of that game. Now, Vegas shorthanded as well. I get that. But I do think that they are playing much better cohesively and notably defensively when they're playing well. Now, they have an incredible balance and ability you have on the Fever roster. And the Pacers are a lot like this too. Part of what made the Pacers so dangerous during their run was between Nesmith and Halliburton and Siakam and, I mean, Turner when he was there. You never knew which one it was, Nembhard, obviously, that could catch fire from three-point range and all of a sudden lightning in a bottle. And the Fever have that to a great extent because Sophie Cunningham, Lexi, obviously Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston has like all of a sudden become this legitimate leading the WNBA in three-point percentage, three-point threat. So the fact that they can mix that around and there's always somebody on the floor that can get hot is a huge advantage for them. The other thing that I think people need to recognize, when Caitlin Clark is not in the game and Sophie Cunningham's catching lightning in a bottle and she's hitting threes or, whoever it may be, Caitlin Clark's on the sidelines and she's doing the three-point thing and she's pointing and she's celebrating. I don't know where the narrative comes from that. I mean, her body language on the floor at times is really bad. There's no question about it. But she clearly is enjoying what's going on. So I don't know why some of her fans can't when she's not on the floor. But by the way, several people commented to me, Derek, that they really like this microphone, that the audio of the presentation that we're doing, they're very impressed by our professionalism. And I think it comes from my microphone because, I went out, I bought this, I picked it out. I'm an audio engineer expert. Wonderful.
I will say the microphone that Jake has is not the one that I recommended. He pulled a me and he bought the one that was on sale instead. But it does sound good. I'll give you credit.
Well, it probably has a shelf life of another 2 weeks. Right?
Well, that might be true. This one here is my travel microphone because I don't want to damage the good one, the really good one that I have at home.
You have a travel microphone?
Yeah, this is a little bit less than, but hopefully it's still okay for the purposes of our stream today.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, before we get back into sports, I do want to, speaking of microphones, mention this. Probably should have led this off the top. And I know I speak for Derek when I say this. And Derek, I wanted you to comment on it. Over the weekend, obviously you were out of town on your work convention, so I understand that. But on Sunday, there was, and I really appreciated this perspective. Bob Kavoyan, who became, a friend to Indianapolis, obviously, and became a friend for Derek and I. He was wonderful to both of us at the time that we were working in the same building as the Bob and Tom Show. We've talked about that. But they had a service for Bob, a memorial, and just to look back on the great life and legacy of Bob Kavoyan, and that took place on Sunday in Indianapolis. And Derek and I were both invited. I went, Shannon and I both went to it. And I saw Becky Kavoyan at the beginning of, before everything got underway. And I walked up and said, this is just going to be a wonderful celebration of life. And she said, but you know what? I don't want to call it a celebration because we're not celebrating the fact that we lost him. we are remembering what he meant to us. So I'd rather call it a memorial. I thought that was fair, and that's obviously her desire, and so therefore that's what we will call it. But it was a wonderful event. There were several speakers. There were 7 different speakers that all spoke about Bob in different capacities of Bob as a family man, Bob as a radio host, Bob as a comedian, Bob as a musician, all of those things. But the bottom line that everybody said in all of their messaging about Bob was Bob Kavoyan was a guy that made everybody feel like a friend. And in addition to that, when Bob was in your corner, you knew it. And there was a real pride in having Bob in your corner because there was nothing he wouldn't do for you. He was a really special guy. It was a special day. It was an honor to be there. And Derek, I know obviously you would have liked to have been there, but Bob was somebody that was special to you as well. And I know he thought a great deal of you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was heartbroken to have to miss it, right? Just the victim of timing, and I'm glad that everybody gathered to do this, and I'm sure it was a wonderful event and a meaningful one too. Yeah, I think what I would say about Bob, and look, we already did kind of the memorial episode, right, a couple of weeks or months ago when that ended up happening. But you mentioned the friend part of it. It's great to have Bob in your corner. Like I have people in my life, and I'm not going to name names. I don't want to like disparage anybody, but I have people in my life who are in my corner and swing a big stick, if you will, because you know what I mean? Like they're prominent or they can get things done, but that wasn't what was obviously Bob could do that for you, right? I mean, you talk about swinging a big stick. No one swung a bigger stick in Indianapolis, but even if you take all of the radio stuff out of it, even if you take the, oh my God, it's Bob Kavoyan out of it, he's the best person to have in your corner because he would literally do anything to help you out, to help, especially if you were in need. And that's it. There are a lot of people that have risen to his stature that I would not say that about. So that was, I think, something that was very unique to Bob, but I'm glad that the ceremony went well. Something else to mention while we're talking about those that pass it, certainly in the radio world, a lot of people, especially IU fans, know Joe Smith. And he passed away. Jeff Rabjohns tweeted a couple of days ago, who was a Bloomington mainstay, 40 something years on the IU radio network, 50 something years, Bloomington South, Bloomington North, all the high school sports in that area. And was another guy who was just a really lovely man. We're lucky in Indiana. We get to remember a lot of people who were great people first and great media people second. You know what I mean? And I think Joe belongs on that list too. So I wanted to give him a shout out.
Derek, did you during your time in Indiana, Joe Smith, for those that are unfamiliar, was essentially the pre and post game host for Indiana basketball and football, notably, and did sports in Bloomington forever, as Derek mentioned. But he was the guy before games and then during games when Don Fisher would throw it to him for the stats, the updates, the Big Ten scoreboard, those sorts of things. And he taught also. He was an advisor, I think, during my time, at least, in the journalism or the radio and television programs at IU, which I did not take. But so I actually never met Joe Smith, but I felt like I did because I had listened to so many IU events over the course of the years and have never heard anything other than what you just said. A wonderful, truly professional guy. Did you cross paths with him at all, Derek?
Yeah, very rarely, but I did. One of the first ever professional things that I did was when I had graduated college. I stuck around for a year because I wasn't ready to move to Indianapolis. But I did an internship with the ESPN radio affiliate there, which turned into a part-time job. And one of my first part-time gigs, because I was already in Bloomington, was, hey, why don't you go around to our high school football games in the area and then call in to the high school football Friday night show? And so I would often go, because they had such a good program, to Bloomington South. And Ben Chappell, if you remember that name, who went on to IU, was the quarterback at Bloomington South at that time. And Joe Smith was in the press box and talked to him briefly. He found out it was kind of like my first day type thing, and was about how you would expect. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. And he was broadcasting the game. I think they were playing Pike, maybe. It was the old Conference Indiana days. I kind of got a kick out of with Joe was I thought he actually sounded a lot like Don. Even like how he cadenced his voice was very similar. So like when Don would throw it to Joe, it was almost like Don was throwing it to like this like other version of himself, if you will, with the scoreboards and things like that. But yeah, I mean, one of those voices that you hear it, and I I don't know if there are a lot of people that you would connect immediately to something. And I just connect Joe right away to just Bloomington in general, IU Bloomington,
totally.
Because of all of his work down there.
By the way, this show is presented by Bailey and Wood. Bailey and Wood, the very best. Upcoming their golf outing, where we get to see firsthand what they mean to the community by giving money back to different organizations, school, church, choir organizations around Southern and Central Indiana. But Bailey and Wood, of course, when it comes to your home mortgage, Bailey and Wood is the very best. Mike and the group, they're like family at this point for the two of us, and they treat the rest of you the same way. That's the important thing, because you want somebody that you can trust when you're going for your mortgage rate. Bailey and Wood. Derek, the website for Bailey and Wood is
BAWFG.com.
BAWFG.com.
Let's see, the golf outing. What is today's a Tuesday, right? And it's on a Thursday. So 16th, 23rd, 30th. Jake, the golf outing is in 3 weeks.
It's crazy.
Can you believe that? What happened to summer? Remember when, like, we're old enough to remember.
I've been soaking in the summer, Derek.
Do you remember? We're old enough to remember when there was actually a summer, and now it feels like I don't know what it is. Like, it feels like summer just goes.
My mom, when I was a kid, used to say that summer ended on 4th of July. Oh, it feels like the beginning of the end. And so this year, for the first time, to your point, I'm like, you know what? I just let things go by too quick. So this year, I joined a pool, and literally every day, once I have free time, even if it's only for an hour, I go and I put on my SPF 45, went to my dermatologist yesterday, by the way, we're all good. And I just sit and lay by the pool. And Derek, I was thrilled yesterday. And I know this sounds creepy. I don't mean it to sound that way at all. I loved it yesterday because there were 3 kids playing Marco Polo. And so just to be able to sit by the pool and hear the splashes and then hear kids playing Marco Polo, I'm like, this is summer. That's what summer is. And so I loved it. Now, obviously, I don't have a pool, right? But if I had, like, let's say, a huge bathtub or something in the house like that, Chateau Kitchens can not only update that, they can do it for you as well. Chateau Kitchens has been a great partner for us. And Derek, I know they've done great work at your house.
Yeah. Let me get my background here. No question about it. Yeah, I love my friends at Chateau. Actually, we're going to call them because our master, I mentioned this on the show, our master bathroom. Got to go. Not got to go. I mean, we still need a master bathroom, but it has to be updated. So we're going to call our friends at Chateau Kitchens, chateaukitchens.com for Steven and his crew. And we'll shout them out again coming up here for Bite or Bowl Bleep 10, the show.
Yeah, they're the best. No question about it. And then it goes without saying, we love Hoagies and Hops Chili Water over at 42nd and Boulevard. Derek, I'm still going with. You're out of town, so we didn't get the sandwich in today.
Okay.
But I got the Grapefruit Radler going right here.
Yeah, it's a great summer. When it's 100 degrees outside, it's really a pretty perfect beer. I would call it a porch beer, but we haven't really had porch weather here the last couple of days, right? with how hot it's been. I'm at least in the mountains, so I get the mountain. You know, the highs in Denver's like 98, but at least I get kind of the mountain air. But that the Team Builder Grapefruit Radler is delicious. Hoagie of the week as well. You know, one that I wanted to mention. There are a lot of sandos that have a lot of frills, right? A lot of toppings. And that's kind of what I appreciate about Christina. I just love to load, like the hog. Just load it up, man. Give me the O, give me the O-O, give me the L, give me the T, give me the prosciutto, give me the gabagool, give me the prove, give me all of it, right? But I understand that not everybody is into all of the thrills. And you just want, hey, I just want to customize. Can I just get like a ham sando? Throw some tomato on there. I don't really like mayo, but can you put like the 9-grain beer mustard on there? Yeah. Well, Zaire too, but Jake, that's a frill sandwich. I'm talking about the people that just kind of want the basic stuff. I want people to know you can go into Hoagies and Hops and get a ham sando or a turkey sando and just customize it the way I want Prove, or I want American, or I want no cheese at all. I want mayo, I want mustard, I want L, I want OO, I want O. And so the ham and turkey option, it's at the very bottom of the sandwich menu, but that's our Hoagie and Hero of the Week, just because I want folks to know that if you have less of an amplified palate like Jake and I do, not to be mean, you can go ahead and get one of those sandwiches and customize it however you want.
Here's the other thing about Hoagies and Hops that I love. This past week, I was at the radio station, and I look over, and there's Christina walking in. And so I called her in the studio real quick. I was in a commercial break. I'm like, hey, great to see you. Like, what brings you in? She was in there because there was another cause that she was wanting to help with, and she was in there spreading the word. This is someone in Christina and Hoagies and Hops that not only are they just a cool neighborhood joint, but the whole city is their neighborhood. And when there are people in need, there are organizations in need, Hoagies and Hops is always there for them, along with Chili Water right next door. So I love that spirit of it all. And that's why it's always an honor to be able to say that we are partnered with them. You had somebody that listens to this show reach out to you regarding a baseball question that on the surface you think, and then you think about it and you think there's no way that that's correct, but at the same time, maybe it can be considered in discussion. Is that fair?
Yes. Is this person at the very least entering? Is this a discussion worth having? How about that? So this person just entered the limelight once again last night in the home run derby. So we will come back and talk about that. Also, Colts Ring of Honor, Adam Vinatieri, we found out he's getting in. Who's next for that? We've got World Cup Final Four as well, or I guess the semifinals in progress by the time that this show gets to you too. So plenty to get to. It's another edition of Query and Schultz presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network.
Which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
We're back. Query and Schultz presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group. Thanks for making us a part of your day, a part of your morning, a part of your night, whenever you happen to be watching the show. Maybe you're watching the live stream, new time, 9 p.m. Eastern. We appreciate you being here. So Jake had kind of alluded to it. Phil Sanchez, who I'm a big fan of, longtime journalist here in town. He's been with Channel 8 for, God, it has to be 20 years at this point, right?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, because Phil would have gotten here like right around when you were still at IBC, I think. Wouldn't he have?
That's probably right.
Or maybe a little bit after that.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, we're pushing, which is weird to say, we're pushing 20 years now. Big baseball guy, too. Grew up a big Mets fan in Queens. Anyway, this was a couple of weeks ago. I think after Schwarber had like a 2-homer game. And he had mentioned, on X, is Schwarber... I think Schwarber's the greatest Hoosier athlete ever. And I said, I responded, I was like,
he obviously means Indiana University product, right?
Yes. He's not talking about the state of Indiana, the greatest athlete to come from Indiana University. And, I was thinking about it. I was like, well, Schwarber is pushing his way up the list, but you've got a 9-time gold medalist and an NBA Finals top 50 all-time NBA player, 2-time champion who led a dynasty level team that are in that at the top of that list. And it's very, very hard for Schwarber to get there. And he said, first off, he wasn't talking about the Olympic sports. So, I mean, I still think, am I right in saying, Jake, and I know it's been 50 years, it's still Mark Spitz, right? And yes. Then Isaiah. Okay.
Mark Spitz, for a long period of time, for the better part of Mark Spitz's life, certainly the better part of his adult life, he was synonymous as the slam dunk, no hesitation answer as the greatest athlete in the history of his sport. Now, obviously, Michael Phelps has eclipsed that, but Mark Spitz was Michael Phelps before Michael Phelps, right? So, yes. And then Isaiah Thomas. And the one that people forget about, Derek, Walt Bellamy was an unbelievable NBA player. And for the vast majority of his career, Walt Bellamy was the best big man in basketball, or one of the top 2 or 3. But Bellamy and Isaiah Thomas both, if we're going with the stick and ball sports, those two are undeniably amongst the top 50 players all time within their sport. Now, Schwarber would not be anywhere. I'm not saying he's not a great player, but there is no ranking anywhere that would list Kyle Schwarber in the top 100 Major League Baseball players of all time, right? Granted, more players, I get it, but nonetheless,
no, he's not one of the top 200 players of all time,
right?
Yeah, and I think Schwarber might not even be a Hall of Famer. I mean, Schwarber would have to get to the Baseball Hall of Fame to be in this conversation.
I think at this point, I think he's knocking on the door of the Hall of Fame, though.
He is, but the problem for him, Jake, and I'm not saying he can't get there. He's 33. He has to get to 500 home runs for that even to be a conversation. Because 377 or something.
Okay.
So conceivably he can get there, but he's going to have to get there because his metrics, and I don't fully understand WAR and all that, right? But his metrics are bad, and he is. This is not me being. This is not hyperbole. He is one of the absolute worst defensive players of his entire era, like to the point where you can barely have him in the field because he's so bad. And so, like, what does Kyle Schwarber do well? He gets on base and he hits homers. What doesn't he do as well? Basically everything else. So when you have somebody that is a one-trick pony, essentially a home run hitter, and in Phil's defense, one of the most feared home run hitters of his era, right?
But
he's going to have to boost those numbers way up to get into the Hall of Fame.
I do not disagree with what you're saying, but if I were assigned to be contrarian here, I would say the following. I don't know if he's the only one, but he has hit a home run in the ALDS, the ALCS, the NLDS, the NLCS, and the World Series. As a matter of fact, I believe he's hit a home run in the World Series for the American League and the National League. Is that right?
I think that's right.
Was he in the series with Boston? I can't recall, but either way.
Wait, no, maybe that's not right because Boston, they went to the CS.
Okay, then maybe it was just as a National Leaguer. But either way, a remarkable accomplishment. Now, having said that, the first player, and I think it's absurd now that this is not. I mean, this was one of the things that I always kind of enjoyed about baseball was the percentage for Hall of Fame and that kind of thing, the elite level of getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame. But the first player to get a 100% approval, stamp of approval upon their initial, you know who that is, right, Derek? The first player to get a 100% clearance for the Hall of Fame voting.
It was Rivera, wasn't it?
Correct. Mariano Rivera.
Yeah, okay.
Now, Mariano Rivera was a one-trick pony. He saved and finished games. That was it. He didn't go out and win you games. He was not a middle reliever, none of those things. He was a one-trick pony. He did one thing, but he did it better than anybody of his era, and thus he was an immediate shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. So based on that, Kyle Schwarber in his era is the most feared home run hitter. There's no question.
Here's the difference, Jake. Rivera wasn't just the best to do it of his era. He's the best to ever do it. Kyle Schwarber's not the greatest home run hitter in baseball history, and he won't get there.
Yeah, I mean, is Rivera the best to ever do it? I mean, Bruce Sutter and Goose Gossage and Lee Smith were not on teams that were routinely putting him out there with a 2-run lead. I mean, apples and oranges, in my opinion. Now, I know that that's crazy, but
I mean, I would say that the gap between Rivera and Bruce Sutter would be like the gap between Kyle Schwarber and Barry Bonds. I think there's a significant, I think
situationally, Derek, I'm not disputing Rivera's greatness. What I'm saying is I think Rivera, and kudos, statistically speaking, yes, he stands out. But what I'm saying is I have always believed that with any discussion you have about great athletes, you have to look at circumstance. And Mariano Rivera, no question, has the best resume. But Lee Smith, Bruce Sutter, Goose Gossage, great closers all in their own right. Would they have had the same level of success given the same situation of the roster around them, the situations they're being placed in, the lead they have when they're going in to get a save, and et cetera? I don't think you can immediately dismiss that those guys would not have had equal success.
Yeah, I think the guy that really comes to mind in that conversation is Jeter. Like if you put Jeter on the Minnesota Twins, would he have the same career,
Correct.
right? Or would he be regarded the same way? But I don't want to get too off track here, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm dissing Kyle Schwarber. It is an incredible story, and an
He is.
incredible career. I mean,
There's no doubt
Kyle
that he is
Schwarber,
starting to enter the conversation of the Hall of Fame. Whether or not
he
he
is.
gets there, I don't know.
I think he's pretty firmly one of the top 5-ish IU athletes of all time, which just when you're talking about, Spitz, Thomas, Lily King, Walt
Lily
Bellamy,
King's big,
is some of the guys, some of the athletes that you're talking about is a pretty incredible accolade to have. I don't think people ever thought that Schwarber was going to get, he was a great college player, right? But I don't think anybody thought that he would get there. Just the fact that he's a multi-time All-Star, Jake, and is going to hit 400 home runs is crazy. I mean,
Well,
the
especially
previous
considering
best IU baseball player is Mickey Morandini, right?
wasn't there
Before
a
Kyle
time,
Schwarber came around.
Derek, there was a time where it seemed as though Schwarber, it's almost like he's been reinvented. Like Schwarber had this
Big
period.
time.
He went through kind of a dip after the Cubs where you thought, because he was batting like 210, and you just thought, okay, it was a flash in the pan thing here. And then he has researched, in particular in Philadelphia, which is just a perfect fit for him. And he's, he's going to be a Phillies legend for certain. And by the way, I do think it's cool, and I understand it that all of the events, the All-Star Game being in Philly because it's the 250th. If you go back to 1976, everything took place in Philly. The Final Four was there, the All-Star Game was there, etc. On a completely different side note, last night I was watching the Home Run Derby, and I said to Shannon, "Have you been to Philly?" And she said, "I went one time for the NBA All-Star Game, and I remember when we arrived there, someone said, 'Welcome to an ugly city.'" And there is an element of that because it's an older city. It's not the cleanest downtown, but there is something about Philadelphia, just like the down home is the wrong word, like the blue collar, hardworking pride of your city. And when we talked about Christina, right, from Hoagies and Hops, Philadelphia people have this particular pride about Philadelphia that I think if you're from Indianapolis, you have to appreciate. And as a result of that, I just think Philly's a cool place. I think Philly's a cool city. I think it's a great sports city. And I think Kyle Schwarber fits it perfectly because he's just that, like, gritty, big time, like big stick, big performer guy. Fits Philly. But I like Philly for what it's worth. Totally.
Yeah, I think some people would say the answer to this question is Boston. But when you're asked what is the most quintessential American city, I really think it's Philly.
Yeah.
It's not just the history, right? But it's you get all the colors of the rainbow there, as you do most major metro areas, but you certainly get that in Philly. And there's just a pride element there that I think is unmatched because it's not, in New York is such a transient place. You know what I mean? Like some of these others, Atlanta is such a transient place. Like people in Philly, and yes, you get people from all over that are in Philly, but a lot of people are born there and stay there. And they're really prideful about it. And there's just kind of this has become kind of like a negative word, but I want to use it positively. There's a grit to Philly, like the grittiness of people and building up towards working towards the American dream and all of that. Like I honestly, I've of the Northeastern cities, Philly is the one that I've spent the least amount of time in compared to like New York and Boston and some of those other areas. But man, it's always struck me as like, this is America, when I'm in Philly.
So let me ask you this. You are currently in Denver, right? For work. Give me the city. I want two answers here. And I'm going to take Seattle off the board for me because I always talk about how much I love Seattle and everybody knows that. Give me two U.S. cities, Derek. One that, and I don't mean like New York. Give me one that you consider to be, you love it, even though it's not one that's routinely answered as such. And give me one that you think is very overrated.
Oh, okay. A city that I've always really enjoyed, and it gets a bad rap, and I've just had a special place in my heart for it, is Cleveland.
Okay.
I think downtown Cleveland's actually really great. I heard it's actually been almost 10 years since I've been there, but I heard it's even gotten better. Another one that gets a bad rap, and I only went here once, but this was recently, so it's top of mind. And I had a wonderful time. I ate the best food that I've ever eaten in the United States is Memphis. And that's another one that people take a dump on. Phoenix was awesome. I really, really enjoyed Phoenix and the entire area, the downtown, the whole thing. So I'm going to give you a bunch of answers there. I mean, the one that comes to mind for me that's hopelessly overrated, there's just way too much going on. Everything feels like a hassle. It's super expensive, is Miami. And it's just hot and if I want that experience, I'll just go to Fort Lauderdale, even though Fort Lauderdale's gotten to be really a hassle and hot and awful too, and loud. I'm just getting old, Jake. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's part of it too. Man, another city that's really overrated. Because I think there are elements of every city.
You like St. Pete, don't you?
That you could enjoy. Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't thinking. I guess St. Pete would be a top 50-ish, right? They'd be on that level if you're combining Tampa as well. Atlanta is one that I don't like. I don't like going to Atlanta. I think it's a lot of parking garages and hotels, and there's just not a lot of character in the downtown.
I was disappointed when I was in Brussels, Belgium, because it felt like Atlanta. It was like, I feel like this is just a work conference. You know what I mean? I think Milwaukee's underrated. I think I've talked about that before.
Milwaukee's I
think Chicago's overrated. My apologies to Chicagoans because they'll throw down a flight of stairs. I mean, look, I get it. Wrigleyville's great. I get it. But if people in Chicago act like everything in Chicago, that there is nowhere else in America to get cheese popcorn. And I'm like,
there's no equal. I mean, St. Louis is like that too, where people think it's just the bee's knees, and I'm like, ugh. I mean, St. Louis can't be overrated because I don't think it's rated. I think the only people that rate St. Louis are people from St. Louis.
That's correct. That is it. Okay, Kansas City's underrated.
We had a good time. I like the vibes of Kansas City. Oh yeah. Yeah, we went 2 weeks ago.
Did you go to the Plaza?
Yes, and we did. And then we did Union Station. And we went to the their version of the city market, which is much better than our version of what the city market was. And
our
then we
version's
went to a Royals
been closed longer than the 465 ramp to Allisonville. So yes.
Yeah.
Now,
it's been.
But
tough.
you did not take the extra 30 minutes to take your son to see Allen Fieldhouse in the University of Kansas, correct?
No, that got voted down. We went out to Omaha. We rented a car because we wanted to say, by the way, did you know there's 500,000 people in Omaha? Like, I thought Omaha was the size of Des Moines.
No, Omaha is like the size of Louisville.
Yeah, that's my own ignorance then. I had no idea there were 500,000 people in Omaha. That's like double what I expected it to be. They had like skyscrapers and stuff.
What do you think?
Maybe that's just me being an idiot.
What do you think the steak people are doing? You think the steak people just, I mean, it's not Des Moines steaks, right?
But that area of the country, like Kansas, like they have cities, Wichita, right? But it's not Mutual like of
Martinsville, right?
I just thought I thought all the cities out there were like what Fort Wayne is, not like cities, like lowercase c cities. So that's my own fault. But we had a really good time in Omaha. We spent the day there. And then as we were coming back, we were trying to loop back into Kansas, but we had to make the Royals game and we were just tight on time. So we didn't get to, we couldn't, it was only 30 minutes out of our way, but we couldn't sacrifice the 30 minutes.
So much for my suggestions. Just trying to culture your kid a little bit. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sometimes you give me suggestions, like when we were in New Orleans together and you order a burger. Like you don't get the burger in New Orleans. You get the crawfish po' boy. That's what you get.
The best pizza slice you ever had in New Orleans. You haven't stopped talking about it. It was because of me. I told you.
You know what? With my state of mind and where I was physically at that time in the night, that was the best pizza slice. I still think about that pizza slice. It was so yummy.
Yeah. See, and who's the one that who's the one that expanded you out for that? Right. That was me.
And it was the ambiance of the pizza place too was really great.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
this is such nobody knows what we're talking about, but maybe that's a good thing. We come back on the show. Colts Ring of Honor, Adam Vinatieri, who's next for that. We've got our quick hits as well as we continue. It's Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
at Bailey and Wood.
Thanks so much for joining us. Rolling right along here, Bailey Wood presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. He's Jake. I'm Derek. He's in Indy. I'm in Denver. Wherever you are, thanks for being here. Time to get to some of our quick hits here. And Jake, this is kind of more than a quick hit, I guess. And we've had this conversation before. But I think what's interesting about this is that Adam Vinatieri is really the last of the Colts Ring of Honor inductees, right? Where no brainer, obviously Adam Vinatieri was going to be in there. He was always going to be in there. You know, NFL's all-time leading scorer, Colts all-time leading scorer, comes here, they immediately win the Super Bowl, spent more seasons here than he did in New England, yada, yada, yada. But now that backlog of Manning era Colts, Manning, Wayne, Freeney, Mathis, Clark, Glenn, it's cleared. So now it's okay, if you still want to do a cadence of this being every year or every other year, who's next on this list? And are there some guys that have been waiting around for a long time that now have the chance to kind of push their way in that conversation? And that's not to say that there aren't
three
current
names.
Colts. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, like DeForest Buckner, there's some other guys that are current Colts that are eventually going to get in the Ring of Honor, but I'm talking about guys that have hung them up, and even in some cases hung them up long ago. Who's on your list for the next batch?
There are three names, Derek, in no particular order. Would you like to guess the three?
I feel like my three are going to be different from your three.
Okay, we'll begin with this. Let's go in order of how sure you are that they should be in. Okay.
Okay.
So third being the least of your three.
You want me to start?
What position?
Offensive line.
You're going to say Ray Donaldson.
Yeah.
Okay.
I felt for a long time when you look, you know, the fact that Bill Brooks and Jim Harbaugh, who were both, you know, as much as I like Bill Brooks and much as I like Jim Harbaugh, were both clearly lesser players in that era, the pre-Peyton era, if you will, than Ray Donaldson. I've never really understood why he didn't get in with one of those first groups.
Okay, that's fair. I'm not going to argue that. That's a fair point. My number three is Gary Brackett.
Okay.
I'd take Gary Brackett. I got no problem with Ray Donaldson. Donaldson might even be in front of the guys that I'm going to mention, but I'll say Gary Brackett, my number three. And Brackett is one that probably his symbolism of who he was more but again, I mean, that kind of represented that era, right? He was kind of heart and soul of that team. And certainly, you know, I don't know that he's a Ring of Honor player in most places. His career stats maybe don't dictate it, but that doesn't really factor in all in terms of his value to the Colts themselves.
I'm glad that look, Brackett is not on my list. I'm glad you mentioned him though, because you get it. You get what the Ring of Honor is about. The Ring of Honor is not about, oh, he made 8 Pro Bowls. Oh, right. He did this. It's about who meant the most to Colts fans.
Correct.
And I think Brackett is way high up on the list, and that's why he deserves to be in the discussion.
Okay, your number 2.
T.Y. Hilton.
Okay.
I think especially because you have Dallas Clark in there, I think it should be a slam dunk that T.Y. Hilton gets in. Hilton did not have the luxury of playing with the players that Clark did and still produced tremendous numbers.
My number 2 would be Bob Sanders. Again, what he meant to that fan base. I mean, he is still a legendary. Bob Sanders is Bigfoot, the boogeyman, and the fish that got away all in one. Because when people talk about him in Indianapolis and legendary light, and you would think that the guy started 180 consecutive games over a 10-year stretch. But when he was out there, he was pretty dynamic.
Yeah, he's by the way, he's my number 1. Because when you talk about popularity in the 20 years that I've lived in Indianapolis, I would argue that Bob Sanders is the second most popular Colt.
Okay, my number 1, Derek, is probably, and I don't know, maybe it's still too soon, But Jim Harbaugh, what he represents and symbolizes to the Colts was important. But he was not the player that Andrew Luck was. And Andrew Luck, yes, I know he retired early. I think as we move along now, that makes more sense. But he was a guy that walked into and did not ask for a pretty difficult situation to replace a legend, and he picked them up right away where they had kind of stripped down that roster. He still got them into the playoffs. He got them to an AFC title game. The other two quarterbacks from Indianapolis that started an AFC title game for the Colts are in the Ring of Honor. So at some point, it's going to be time to put Andrew Luck in. And I know that people are going to kill me for that because of the fact he retired. I get it. But I think at some point, Andrew Luck retired early because he was the adult in the room. He did what was best for Andrew Luck. And eventually, the adults in the room are going to have to stand up and say, you know what? We can't keep holding petty grudges because somebody hurt our feelings, and he needs to be in.
Yeah, I think the Colts will have to find the right time to do that, and that time's not next year. I think it's when they get things back on track, if they ever do. I think that's the time to do it. But Jake, think about the non-Peyton Manning years of the Colts in Indianapolis, and we're not talking about a lot of seasons, right? We're talking about 20-ish seasons. 3 of the 4 best seasons without Peyton Manning were Andrew Luck seasons.
Yes,
because outside of 95, it'd be 12, 13, 14. Those are the best seasons of the non-Peyton Manning era that this franchise has had. And you think about the moments, too, in those seasons. The comeback against the Chiefs in the playoffs, the game in Detroit, the win in Denver, the Sunday Night Football win with Peyton Manning's return against the Broncos when he did – I think he did it with a lacerated kidney, right? Or maybe that was 2 years later. The years kind of run together. They beat Denver multiple times.
A lacerated kidney.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, right there, I'd be like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right?
I think they'll have to find the right – it's kind of like you get a divorce or something, and it's like, I'll be happy for my ex-wife. I'll be happy she found somebody once I find somebody,
right?
type thing. And I think that's what Colts fans need.
Speaking of that, and I know we're up against it, and we got to get to Biter Bullschultz. I have a Biter Bullschultz that involves you.
Okay.
People were going to side with me. Whoops.
Yeah, we'll actually come back with that next to wrap up the show. Oh, geez, look at that. We're already breaking stuff. If it makes you feel better, I keep clicking the commercial break things, and they won't fire right away, so I keep multiple.
Should I fix that or just hang it right? My arm hit it and then knocked the – should I straighten
I think it looks great. It's a great representation of how broken this show can be. We'll come back and wrap it up next. Corey Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Tonight.
We cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for the final time, Corey Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Thanks for joining us. Time for Biter Boldly, brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens. Oh, man, I forgot my background. Hang on. I already put it up earlier today in the show, but let's get that bad boy up there again. Splatow. ChateauKitchens.com. In-home transformations, that's what they do. Steven and his team do a incredible job with bathrooms, kitchens, basements, anything on the interior of your home. Go to ChateauKitchens.com and begin your project today, and don't even take our word for it. Go to their Instagram and Facebook accounts at Chateau Kitchens to see the before and after pictures and those aforementioned transformations. Really, really great, really wonderful work that they do. Jake, statement number 1, the Fever have to make the WNBA finals for this season to be a success. Buy it or boldly. Remember, they made the conference finals last year.
Unfortunately, I'm going to say yes. Now, that's unfair, but that's the reality when you have an impatient fan base, of a transcendent player. And so, yes, there were a lot of expectations, a lot of hopes. I think a lot of people think they got to win the WNBA finals, but at least get there. I'm not saying, if you're asking me what the general fan base expectation is going to be, I'm going to say buy it. If it were up to me, I'd say Bull Schultz.
Yeah. I guess it's not they don't call it, I guess they wouldn't call it the conference finals because they don't do the conference format for that. Semifinals? Would they just say, is that what they called it? Yeah. I have NBA brain, so it's hard for me to not call it the conference finals. But I guess that would have been the semifinals that they made last year. I think, Jake, like there is a how did you get there type thing too. How did you look getting there type thing with them too. So much of what's happening with the Fever, or what has happened with the Fever this season, has been vibes based, like how they look as opposed to the ultimate result. So I'm hesitant to say, okay, well, if it's the finals, then it's automatic. I think it probably would be a success if they made the finals. I don't know, has to be a success is tough. It's a very competitive league at the top. And, these series are short is the other thing too. So I don't know. I'm going to say bull bleep on that. Okay. I think there are a lot of determining factors for whether or not it's it's a success or not. Bite or bull bleep.
I have one for you, but you go ahead, and then we'll finish on mine. Go ahead.
Okay. Bite or bull bleep. The Major League Baseball Home Run Derby is still relevant.
I'll buy it only because there's nothing else going on, but it's completely played out.
That's what I was going to say. Even though it looked like I didn't have the chance to watch it because, like I said, I was traveling. We were at a reception last night, but it looked like it was a great event. The one thing I'll say, and this is kind of one of baseball's problems, and I understand that he plays for a prominent franchise. How many sports fans in America know who Jordan Walker is?
Right. Correct. It's like the dunk contest. I mean, at least you had Harper and Schwarber, and Rice was there, but
you had some star power in there, and maybe Jordan Walker gets there. I mean, he's still a young player, right? But I don't know how many people. Baseball just doesn't always do a great job of getting their young names out there the way that the NBA does. I mean, the NBA is much better at that. Okay, what's your bite or bull bleep for me?
Okay. Bite or Bull Schultz, this was a weird reply. Derek is in Denver. Denver, beautiful city, great city. First time I went there, I was in college. It was like this magical, it was like the Emerald City to me. And Red Rocks is a spectacular venue. So last night, Derek sent me a picture to show that he was at Red Rocks, just a gorgeous evening in Colorado. Wonderful. And I replied with, that's Shannon's childhood right there. She even climbed the rocks in high school. Derek's reply, I've been texting with her.
No, I've been texting with her. Like it's not like in that tone.
That should or should not make me uncomfortable. That should make me uncomfortable and upset. Buy it or Bull Schultz.
I mean, it's Bull Schultz because we're best friends. It would be like if somebody else, let's say I was single and somebody else found out that I was coming for their girl, then it would be buy it, because a lot of times when that happened in my past life, you were in trouble, because of, this. And also just my status as well.
You're off the hook only because I was cleaning out things over the weekend and I found a card for my 50th birthday from my sister that said, this was a great event. Shannon and Derek did a great job planning it. So I realized you have coordinated with Shannon in the past and probably texted. And in that regard, it was to celebrate rightly the greatness that is me. So therefore, I'm confident in the fact that you texted her, and I understood why.
I'll tell you, and that's really nice that either Megan or Juge said that. But my involvement with your 50th birthday party was 6 months prior, texting Shannon and being like, hey, are you doing anything for Jake's 50th? It'd be fun to do a party. And she basically said, oh, yeah, I got it. And that was it. She handled pretty much everything. I think I helped coordinate the surprise, maybe. I think she and I maybe were texting for your arrival, if I remember right. But
that's right. And
that was a while ago because you're pushing 60 now. That was
that's right.
That was 7-8 years ago, I think.
That's right.
If I remember right. Thanks to our terrific sponsors, obviously, Chateau Kitchens right behind me here. In-home transformations at chateaukitchens.com. Our great friends and longtime sponsors of this show. Ditto for our friends at Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water Brewing. 42nd and Boulevard, hoagiesandhops.com for their catering menu and their brand new and improved menu, Sandoz-wise. They've added a lot of sandwiches to the bottom of their menu. We'll talk more about that next week's show. And then, of course, our presenting sponsor, Bailey & Wood Financial Group, BAWFG.com. Sorry, Jake, I know it was a little awkward today with me being several time zones away, but appreciate you making time for it.
Well,
for
you're
Jake,
up early.
I'm Derek. I know. I stayed on Eastern time. We'll see you next time right here on Query and Schultz, here on the ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey